In this episode, I'm going to take you through a simple, non-techie guide to the technical stuff that you must get right on your website. I'll walk you through the 8 key things you need to check to ensure your website visitors are having a great experience. Now, you might have the greatest content or products and services in the world, but if your website is technically poor, slow, and glitchy, you're going to struggle and get quickly frustrated by the poor conversions on your website. Don't worry, I'm going to keep it simple so you know exactly what you need to check to make sure your website performs well. So let's get into it. Hi, I'm David Caddick and welcome to Digital Growth Genius, where I help businesses grow with digital. Now, this video is step 4 in my series on how to turn your website into a marketing machine in 6 steps. This series will get you focused on the critical things that you need to do to turn your website into a marketing machine. Click on the links below to see the whole series when it's available, and you'll also find a link to a special tool that will help you diagnose the problems on your website and what you need to do to grow your business with digital. Finally, make sure you subscribe to my channel and hit the bell so that you don't miss a thing. All right, let's get into it. Now, as you can imagine, there is a lot around the technical operation of your website that needs to be right, but I'm going to focus this episode on the 8 key things that will give you 80% of the result that you need. Importantly, I cover technical search aspects of your website in step 5 in this series and analytics and data monitoring in step 6, so make sure you check those episodes out. Tip number 1 is site speed. Google has some really interesting research that shows that 53% of mobile visitors leave a page that takes longer than 3 seconds to load. Also, as page load time goes from 1 second to 10 seconds, the bounce rate, or the number of people who give up on waiting for a website to load, increases by 123%. If you go to gtmetrics.com, you can find out how long your website takes to load for free. To improve your site speed, there are some basic fundamentals you need to make sure you've got right on your website. Firstly, make sure you've got a quality hosting service. I know it's tempting to purchase the $1 per month hosting service, but the reality is you get what you pay for. You might think that you are saving a lot of money, but if your website is slow, the data I just spoke about clearly shows how many customers you're losing. I worked out really quickly that I only have to lose 1 or 2 customers and that cheap web hosting service starts to look very expensive. I've got some links below to what I think is the best hosting service for your business and the one that I use. The next way to improve your site speed is images. Images are really important for your website, but too often I find that web developers haven't shrunk images to make sure that they load fast on a website. You can use free tools like tinyjpg.com or paid tools like shortpixel.com, which will automatically reduce the file size of your images without hurting quality. You'll find links to these below. These tools are really easy to use and make a really big difference to load times. Cache is another way to speed up your website. Basically, caching is a stored snapshot of your web pages and means the host doesn't have to create a new version of your web page every time. This means your load times can be significantly faster. Check with your host if they use caching, or you can install software that does this for you. Finally, use a content delivery network or CDN. A content delivery network spreads a copy of your website to multiple locations around the world. By doing this, it can serve a copy of your website to a user from the closest point to that user. This means that your website is loaded faster. Talk to your host about turning CDN on. Most good hosts offer this service, but it may cost a little extra. All right, those are the basics of website speed. Make sure this is a focus for you because, as I said, you only need to lose 1 or 2 customers to poor site speeds, and it can really hurt your business. Number 2 is mobile friendly. Statista data shows that around 50% of internet traffic is mobile. This is obviously huge, so you must make sure that your website looks great on mobile. You cannot just give a mobile user a desktop version of your website. This is guaranteed to scare off mobile visitors because they simply won't be able to read your website and it makes you look unprofessional. For a little bit of fun, imagine what Amazon's website would look like if they just used the desktop version for mobile. Pretty terrible. The real Amazon mobile website is much easier to use. Take action immediately and get a mobile version of your website right now. Number 3 is security certificate. That little S you see in website addresses and the padlock symbol stands for security certificate and means a website has a secure, encrypted connection. Google has said that HTTPS sites have a ranking advantage, so you must make sure that you've got a security certificate installed on your website. Also, some website visitors get scared off a website if they don't see a padlock icon, particularly e-commerce sites. Indeed, some browsers warn that a website isn't secure. Most reputable hosts offer security certificates for free, so get onto this straight away, as this could be scaring some of your visitors away and hurting your Google rankings. Number 4 is security software. Unfortunately, there are lots of hackers out there in the world, and it's critical you have as much protection as possible. Make sure your website uses software to defend against attacks to ensure your website stays problem-free. Tip number 5 is URL structure. A URL is the web address of your business. The pages on your website all have their own unique URL, and it's really important you get the structure of your URL right to help your website visitors get to the information they need, and very importantly, to give you the best chance to rank on Google search results. Google is really clear about best practice here, and I'm going to share with you some of their tips. The first tip is to have a URL that makes sense for humans, not a robot. For example, let's say you were searching on Google for how to make cheese and you came up with a result that had a whole lot of numbers in the URL. Well, you really wouldn't be reassured that you could get what you need. A URL with a whole lot of numbers just doesn't tell a user what it's about. If the URL was cheese.com/guides/how to make cheese, you're going to be much more likely to click on it. A URL that describes the article provides another reason for a user to click on the link. Now also notice that the URL structure with guides/how to make cheese tells the user that this article is part of a section that has other guides, so it gives the user an understanding of the site's navigation, which can only help. Other tips for your URL structure is to keep it around 50 to 60 characters, because research shows that the top search rankings in Google have this amount of characters. Keep the number of words after your domain to between 2 and 5 words. Use hyphens, not underscores, between these words, and try to keep 2 forward slashes like the cheese example, because this minimizes the number of clicks for a user to navigate around your website. Use only lowercase letters and don't use dates, because it will make your article look old pretty quickly. And very importantly, make sure the keyword in your article is in the URL, because this will help your Google rankings. I've got more information on how this is important for your Google rankings in step 5 of this series, and you'll find a link to that episode below. Tip number 6 is 404 and redirects. Sometimes you might delete a page on your website. This can cause a problem if a website visitor has followed a link to that page. Your host won't be able to find the page and will give the visitor what's called a 404 error page not found. This provides a really bad experience for a visitor and doesn't look good, but the reality is from time to time you are going to delete pages. To deal with this, you need to do 2 things. Firstly, make sure you have a process whereby if you delete a page, you set up a redirect that moves people that are trying to access the deleted page to a different page that you think is relevant. These are called 301 redirects and are really easy to set up. The second thing you need to do is to set up a 404 page to handle times when a user enters an incorrect URL or a URL you forgot to set up a 301 redirect for. Importantly, don't think of a 404 page as a crisis. Think of it as an opportunity to direct a website visitor to interesting pages on your site. Create a 404 page with links to important parts of your website, like other products, just like Nike does. You can also have links to important articles or downloadable guides. You can even have a little fun with it like Lego does, where they say, "Don't worry, everything is still awesome." Tip number 7 is backups. I'm sure you have backups of the files on your computer, so why would your website be any different? Ensuring you have daily backups of your website will protect you if you get hacked, as you will be able to restore your website from a backup from the previous day. Also, if an update of software on your website goes bad, you can restore an old backup and you are back in business almost instantly. If your website is generating profit or leads for you, it's absolutely critical to have a backup, otherwise you could lose quite a lot of money while your website is down and you're trying to rebuild it. Good quality hosts include daily backups in their service, so this should be really easy to turn on. Alternatively, there are some software programs you can purchase that will automate this process for you. You'll thank me later. The final tip is to make sure your website software is up to date. This seems so obvious, but I've seen many websites running software versions that are years old and starting to cause problems. It's so important to keep your software up to date so that you have the latest security updates and feature updates that will make your website continue to run smoothly and hacker-free. So there you have it, a non-techie guide to the technical stuff that you must get right on your website. A lot of business owners can get very confused when it comes to the technical operation of their website, and many choose to simply ignore it. If you follow these 8 tips, you'll be well on the way to having a website that runs well and doesn't get in the way of generating revenue and leads for your business. Of course, there is lots of other things you can focus on in this space, but we'll save the advanced tech stuff for another episode. Now below you'll find links to a downloadable summary of this episode and a link to my tool that helps you diagnose the key things that you need to do to focus on improving your website. This video is step 4 in my series on how to turn your website into a marketing machine in 6 steps. In step 5, we'll look at what you need to do to give your website the best chance of ranking high on Google, a really important source of free traffic to your website. If you found this video helpful, please share it with a fellow business owner, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell so you don't miss valuable tips on how to grow your business with digital. See you in the next episode.